Welcome to today's webcast. I'm John Gugliotta. I'm the director of Family Enterprise USA and Policy and Taxation Group. If you don't know who we are, we advocate for family-owned businesses, family offices, and successful families from around the country. We work with all different industries and all different sizes of family businesses. Today, delighted to have two of the best Capitol Hill folks I know, Karen Street and Mark Warren. They're here to give us some input on how to advocate with your legislators on issues that are probably important to your business and to your family. So as I said, Karen Street, she's a principal at Squire Patton Boggs, and Mark Warren is a shareholder at the Brownstein Law Firm. Most people do not know where to start when it comes to reaching out. I know Karen and Mark were super helpful when I first started going to the Hill. I would have to say they were mentors of mine in terms of teaching me what it was like to go into these meetings. So there are critical issues affecting your business and your family. So how do you first get this across? Do you write a letter? Do you call them, email? So Mark and Karen, knowing that you guys have done this for multiple years, what's the best way to reach out to these lawmakers? Where should they start?
John, I'm not sure that there's any particularly accurate. No, there's no perfect answer. Sorry. I think everything you mentioned, all the above, any of the above, it's really, I think, whatever folks feel most comfortable with. Clearly you can call your local. Every member of Congress, every senator will have a district office. And senators have multiple offices in the state, so you can call the office that's closest to you. You can send in an email. Social media. They're very savvy in terms of how they reach out and communicate with constituents. They often will have office hours. You can walk in, and visit as well. So it's really whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and that's great advice because that was the advice that you folks gave me. And I first went out and went into the district offices to visit folks, and I found it very productive.
Yeah. I would second that. I would also add it's always helpful when you're kind of surrounded by others similarly situated folks, and there's strength in numbers. So I think working with an organization like Policy and Taxation Group and Family Enterprise USA is a great way to get connected with other similarly situated family businesses that then work with advocates like us to organize meetings on the Hill where you have, a fly-in of businesses that come in and we kind of help you prep the ask and arrange those meetings. So there's certainly no harm in asking for help and for working with organizations like these to really kind of amplify the message.
Yeah, no doubt, Karen. I mean, I can't even, sit here and say I would have known what to do without walking in without, you or Mark in terms of just following the flow of the meeting and trying to understand how it works. So for me, I was quite fortunate that I had you guys to help me out. So I can understand where, as a rookie, it's a little daunting, but it can be figured out.
Yes. And
So
if I could just add one
sure.
other thing, because one of my first jobs on the Hill was as a legislative correspondent. So, Mark mentioned all of these different ways you can engage with an office through the district. I was also a staff assistant. You can call. Someone will almost always answer the phone. But you can also write letters and send emails to your member of Congress. And there is a position on the Hill, a legislative correspondent, generally in each office, sometimes multiple. And it's their responsibility to read all of those letters and provide some type of substantive response, which is approved by the office. And just kind of an anecdotal example, when I first started working in Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's office in 2008, some of my issues that I handled were banking, business, and housing. And I started to get a lot of letters in in 2008, as you can imagine, about the challenges surrounding the impending credit crisis, the impact on foreclosures and home values. And while one letter isn't necessarily uh, going to rise to the level of policy change, members and offices pay attention because those letters are often a trend. So it's not that it's one letter, it's 20 letters. And if you assume that 20 letters really represents 10 constituents, that really starts to multiply. And so to the extent, you reach out to your members, don't think that it goes into a void. There really are people who are on the other end,
Track.
waiting and ready to respond.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I'll just give everybody an idea of how hard these folks work, and they do work so hard. They were answering emails to me during the shutdown. So just to give you an idea how hard these folks work, that to me was an important thing to highlight here is that they're there for you, and as Karen said, more times than not, they're going to try to get back to you. So,
John, every office I've ever worked in too also keeps track. So like usually at the end of the week there'll be a
Mhm.
report that goes to the senior staff and often to the member, so they can see what that trend that Karen was talking about. What
yeah,
what is really popular and hot topics for our constituents,
yeah,
and for the frequent flyers as we called them, who would write or come by or call. They start to show up and build a relationship with the office, because
yeah.
they track.
Yeah, yeah, great point. Here's something we run into when we come in for our fly-ins for the caucus meetings, the family um, business caucus meetings. When it comes to reaching out, is it important to be specific, or is it okay to come up with several issues of concern? And again, we kind of run into this a little bit when we have our caucus meetings because we as a caucus have an ask, but some of the individual families may have their own ask.
Mhm.
I think it's best to have a more specific ask, especially when you're meeting with an office, because they have probably staffed that meeting with a staffer that they believe is appropriate for the context in which the meeting was arranged. So, for example, if you come in and say, "Oh, I want to talk to you about tax policy issues," but perhaps your family business is also involved in, you know, tr construction, transportation construction. Well, those are probably two very different staffers. So if you get in a
Right.
meeting thinking you're going to talk about tax and then a constituent raises transportation,
Yeah.
it's not that that's not important. It's just that it doesn't facilitate the most efficient conversation.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
And I would say also, I think it kind of depends on the context. If you've just say started up a business, maybe you're expanding, and you're kind of the new branch of your business is in a new congressional office. If you want to reach out, you could reach out in the context of, want to introduce ourselves. We just took over this business. We just opened the doors. We're hiring a lot of folks that are your constituents. And here are a couple of the issues that we're finding are kind of most pressing to us or most on our radar to kind of make sure that the office can staff accordingly, as Karen was saying. So I agree with that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I learned very quickly working with you folks over the years now that, be concise, be clear with your message and your ask because you're going to get that one chance, which leads me into my next question. I don't want to say one chance, but maybe for that trip you to get that one opportunity. So if you do get a meeting with a representative or staff, how much time can you expect to spend with them? And this is something I learned again with you folks, where you may be in the hallway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was going to mention that.
Mhm.
I think if you end up meeting with your representative or your senator, I would expect a fairly narrow, period of time, 15 minutes, probably no more than 30 at the most. Because they pack the members' schedules from, as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning in some cases,
Yeah,
well into the night.
yeah,
So, the members are jumping from one thing to the next to the next. typically you're probably going to meet with a staff member, maybe a couple, depending on kind of what the issues are, or if they've got a junior person, there may be a more senior person. If you're here in Washington and you're going to your congressional office, they have very limited office space. So as John said, we've often done meetings in the hall because that's where, space is available because that little front office is packed full of, the field trip that's also visiting at the same time and all the students that are there to see their representatives. So, I think the key is to, manage expectations and also get your message into kind of jump to the point and then backfill, so that you at least if the time is shorter than you expect, you've delivered your money line, and then you can always go back and fill in the background. And I think also just be prepared that staffing may change, because often things will come up at the very last minute, and the member will be, we have to be at this hearing, and I need, Jane to be with me, and somebody else is going to have to sub in for her, and they will take notes, and diligent staff will deliver the message.
Yes,
Exactly.
flexibility is a key in DC,
Yes.
is it not?
Yes.
It
Yes.
it really is the only way to survive it. So not only could the members schedule change, which is as to be expected if votes are called or there's a long hearing going on, but also staff schedules are at the whim of the member as well. So you have to stay flexible, and not just in terms. The other point that's really important in terms of getting your ask or your point out there quickly is that you should also anticipate some time for a back and forth. You certainly some of the best meetings, there's an exchange where the member or the staffer are asking you questions in response to the information that you're sharing. So if you expect a 15-minute window or a 30-minute window, you don't want to expect to fill that entire time talking. It's also great for you to leave some time for them to give feedback and ask questions because you do want it to be a dialogue and not a monologue.
Yeah, I remember one of the first times I was there with you guys, and I guess when there's a vote, a light comes on or something comes on, and I was like, "Where's everybody going?" And I had to learn that as well. I guess it is a little bit of a red button comes on or what have you, so you have to be prepared, I guess, for
The
when folks are.
clocks, the
Yes,
clocks
the
tell
clock.
you what's going on all day long. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And to Karen's point, I think the other thing is, make this real for them. The former speaker, Tip O'Neill, always used to say that all politics are local. Members represent you. So whoever you're in to see, you need to drive it home to the district or the state and, talk about what it's like on the ground. Talk about, your life as their constituent. But put the district complexion around your message and make it hometown for them because they're representing you. They may, if they're here in DC, a lot of times they will come from the district. Sometimes they won't. But the really good staffers will get to know the district if they're not natives, and they will. It's another way to connect. Uh,
yeah.
for those who are really in the know about the district, it'll build that relationship.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of the things you brought up, Mark, which is real important, I think anybody who goes to DC and wants to have one of these meetings is to think about the fact, like you said, their schedule could be filled from 6:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night with meetings just like yours. So keep in mind that they are taking notes. They are going to do their best, but it is up to you, meaning the person who's got the appointment, to follow up and to go through the paces of knowing that there may have been 30 of these meetings today. So,
And one technique, doesn't always apply, but you invite if you've got a manufacturing facility, you've got
right.
some type of a facility, invite the member to come visit. They go home almost every weekend, and a lot of them, they don't just take off the weekend. They spend all day Saturday going around the district and doing different meetings of different events. Sundays church, and then go on to do other community events.
Yeah.
So, and often they're home on a Friday or a Monday. Invite them to come out and visit your manufacturing facility, or your, whatever kind of business you have. And that will be kind of an important way to build the relationship, because they get to see who you are and what you do and all
Right.
of your employees up close and personal.
Yeah, no, great point. We encourage that every time we're in DC. Is we tell all our family businesses there that please invite your representative to come to your location. They love to do it, and they appreciate the fact that they get, as you said, an opportunity to meet a bunch of constituents at that point. So yeah. So let me go to this point, which I think is just as important as some of the others we've made. If you have a meeting and you can't get the actual representative, and you do get some staffers in there to meet with you, is this worth your time, or should you just wait until the day comes when you can get to see the representative? My experience with you guys is that I found them to be just as valuable, as long as I knew that I had to follow up, which was my part of the deal.
Yeah, I would say they are just as valuable, and sometimes they are more valuable. A lot of, we talked about members being stacked from sun up to sundown. They are hit with
Yeah.
every issue under the sun, even on the committees where they sit and have jurisdiction. There's a whole host of issues. It's unrealistic to think a member is going to be an expert on all of those issues. And the reality is, they rely upon their staff heavily to not only track the incoming, but understand who they are as a member, what their ethos is, and their positions, so that they can have the appropriate response. And so they're relying upon those members, their staff, to provide that guidance. And so building the relationships with the staff, getting into the weeds with them, and helping them understand how a high level policy actually plays out on Main Street is very valuable to the staffer, and certainly worth your time.
Yeah, and I'll just say, Karen, as you're out there listening, Karen's done it. She's been there, so she knows. So this is somebody that basically has been on that side of it and has sat down with many, many constituents, and understands how this works. So please take this advice seriously.
And I want to make sure we get this point in. Um, yes, taxpayer funds provide the salary of members of Congress and their staff. It funds the entire office. Um, Staff are not getting rich working on Capitol Hill. Like it is a tireless, oftentimes thankless job. They truly are public servants. It
Yeah.
is a privilege and an honor to be a public servant. But it is very hard work. And um, this should be the golden rule: treat people kindly and with respect. Even if you come in and you're frustrated with a member of Congress, perhaps you don't believe that they are supportive of you, or they don't see you, they don't understand you. You are always gonna catch more flies with honey. So I encourage everyone, regardless of who you're meeting and what you think their position is going to be, start from a place of gratitude and appreciation and excitement about being able to connect with a member or their staff.
Yeah, as I said, during the shutdown, those folks were answering the phone and answering emails. So God bless them. I mean, they were there working
Not getting
hard.
paid at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, good point.
Yeah.
But there they
and
were.
yeah, and I think Lauren is able to put up the next poll if you want to go ahead and jump to that.
Sure. Why don't we throw that out there? All right, let's see. Have you ever participated in group meetings in Washington, D.C. with members of Congress? I know I have. Let's see how we do here. The first poll question was 50-50. This one looks like it's 60-40 that folks have been to DC with either a group or, but then yeah, it's almost 50-50 again. Okay. So at least we know we've got some folks that have, come to DC and made an effort to meet with their representative or the staff. So, I think for the ones who haven't, this is probably super important if they're planning to do so. And if I may, if you are planning to do so and you are a family business, please reach out to me if you'd like to come to one of our caucus meetings. The next one's March 17th. We'd be happy to have you with us. We'd be happy to put you in a group with Mark or Karen to find their way around Capitol Hill. And it'll be a great experience for you. So please feel free to reach out. So,
John,
yep,
can I pick
please.
up just on the last question? I think one other thing is, as Karen was I think nicely illustrating, members have to know all of the issues. And there's a lot of issues that are, at any given time for a member to understand. But the staff are a little more specialized. So in some ways, if you're talking to the staff and you're getting your message into the staff and they get to know you, when the member needs advice, they're going to call the staff first. And so if we can arm the staff with the case study that you're bringing in and your perspective and all the data and everything else that you bring to the table, I think that is a really powerful way to make sure that you're part of the institutional knowledge. And then ultimately that message gets to the member. And in the future, especially if you're building a relationship, then you'll have an opportunity at some point, and members very quickly connect dots.
Yeah, and it's a great point because it's not a one-way, let's say, conversation. It should be two ways, and you going in there as the constituent should just be as prepared as they are to answer. You should have done your homework. You should be ready to have this discussion about the issue that may be affecting your business. So yeah, great point.
And it's okay to say you don't know and follow up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do want to make sure that we're responsive to the chat because we've got some
Oh.
folks commenting.
Thank you, Karen.
Of course. Andy is asking about representatives who say that they support small business or that small business is good, but then they vote against regulations and have never been asked, if it would help. And have never reached out to those businesses to ask if those regulations would actually help. He also mentions that his business is not in his representative's district, but he lives in the district. And also that his representative is running for governor. So it sounds like there's a lot going on, Andy. And Mark, happy to hear your thoughts. I think I think what we're talking about in terms of engaging with members of Congress is a part of getting to your point of, never being asked, like, how is this regulation going to impact my constituent? I used to work for a member who talks about her frustration with running for office and having all of this support and then not hearing from the people who helped put her in office and wanting them to keep engaging her and serving on advisory committees and really kind of holding her feet to the fire. So a part of the importance of engaging your member of Congress is to build that relationship so that they understand who you are, that you're operating in or around the district. It doesn't matter that, and I would say if your business is in one district and you live in another district, then you've got two bites at the apple because you can go to a member and say, I live here, my business is close by. Arguably, there's some economic impact, even if it's in another district. And certainly, even if your member is running for governor, they're still running for an office, so you're still a potential constituent for them. So I think there are lots of opportunities to try to engage and really build that relationship so that when there are issues that are impacting you, you have a line of communication, but also the goal is for them to think proactively to engage you and ask how you might be impacted.
Yeah, and before we get to Mark, I just want to kind of piggyback on that point, Karen, because when you think about it, it's smart to think in a bipartisan way because it's very possible that your district rep maybe doesn't hold the same party views as you, but be prepared to have that discussion about how the business is being affected by some of these things in a very professional way. Again, we're bipartisan and we find that it works. So just to make a point there.
Yeah. And I'm going to agree with Karen and also pick up on, I can see one of the other questions has to do with, where you donate to a member and then want to reach out and have a conversation. This is a kind of a murky area where I think the members try very hard to keep the campaign and donations side very separate and, under the law and the rules of the staff have to be separate between the political side, the policy side here in Washington, and in the district offices, very separate from the campaign. So, I think the question was, well, what do we do if we have made a campaign contribution and want to meet with the member? I think, to avoid sort of the suggestion of pay to play, working with the campaign to say, legitimately, we donated. We'd very much like to have a meeting. That can open the door. But once that door is open and you're having the conversation with the member, really, you want to avoid any kind of suggestions about amounts that you've donated to their campaign, and really focus on what the constituent or the policy issue that is front and center. So it can be a little bit of a delicate line to walk, but I think campaign contributions are important for supporting a candidate that you like and a member that is in office that you like, and they can open the door. But that's really where the campaign ends, the contribution ends, and then your role as a constituent and alerting them to policy issues begins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just because it's such an important topic, anytime you're meeting with an office on Capitol Hill or in their district office, because those are taxpayer funded official government entities, you cannot reference campaigns at all. So that's like the very clear line of demarcation. You also want to make sure you're not going into a campaign event and making that an official ask of a member. So you wouldn't want to say, hey, I've donated this money. Now I want you to vote for this. What you can do is say, hey, I've donated this money. I would like, a 15-minute coffee. I generally, encourage clients, if you're making a donation, you want to get some FaceTime, if nothing else, to say, hi, my name is Karen. And it's a great time to say, hi, my name is Karen, and this is my business. And, we're a third generation, widget manufacturer, and we employed this many, workers, and this is our hourly rate. And these are the benefits that we provide. Like, that's a great way to kind of introduce yourself, and then go from there.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. I mean, we have so many members that have very good relationships with their district representatives, and they've done it basically using that same kind of process, which is, introducing yourself and then inviting them over to come see your place of work, and it's a great way for them to start to build that relationship. So let's keep moving on here. Is it important to leave something behind? I know when we go on our, Hill visits during the caucus, we always like to leave something behind. we leave a flyer or something, but what about if you're an individual? Is it a smart idea to write a note, or what would you do?
Well,
I mean, oh, go ahead.
I'm a big fan of pictures. So, if you're going to go in and you've got a story to tell and a request for a kind of policy, if you can illustrate that, I think picture's worth 1,000 words. There's a
Mhm.
lot to that. I think you need to make sure that, whatever, if it's really up to you. It I think has value if you have a leave behind, as we often call them, whether it's just bullet points describing your business, it should identify who you are, and make sure you have an address on there because then it'll register that you're in the district. And the more of an impression that it makes, then they keep these things, and then they'll remember, oh, we had this, and often it becomes a reference. Or sometimes the member will be so excited about whatever it was that I've seen members offer to ask consent during a hearing to insert this constituent material, making backing up their point and into the record at a hearing. You
Yeah,
know, it's useful to have something at a minimum. Leave your business card again because it identifies you as a constituent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just as important as leaving something behind is the follow-up. So if I have a leave behind, then I also want to follow up and say, thank you for taking the
Right.
time to meet and discuss blah, blah, blah. As follow up, here's an electronic copy of the leave behind that we provided in the meeting. Please
Yeah.
feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have based upon this, et cetera. So the follow through is just as important, because you want to make sure that again you're building a relationship, and leave something for them.
I agree. I mean, I think it's just part of the two-way relationship. I mean, you have to be accountable to this process yourself. You can't go into one of these meetings for the first time and go home and after a month go, well, nothing happened. There is an onus on you to continue to work toward, getting through the process, and it is a process. And I think if you think about it as a one-off, I think it can be disappointing.
Exactly. We have another question in the chat. If I am a Democrat, can I also meet with Republicans? Yes, absolutely. Especially if we're thinking about it from a constituent basis, a Republican member doesn't just represent their Republican constituents; they represent everyone in the district that they are blessed to represent. So that absolutely does not limit you. I am a Democratic lobbyist, and I reach out to Republican offices all the time. And I'm sure Mark does the same. So you are certainly not pigeonholed.
And on our,
Excellent.
on our last question, I just wanted to add that they don't underestimate the power of a thank you note. I can hear my mother, after every event, after whatever it was, somebody was nice to you in some way, send them a thank you note. And, just like when you're interviewing for a job, thank you note's really powerful to reinforce what went right. It's also
Mhm.
an opportunity to fix things that might not have gone so right. And you can kind of leave it open in some ways to say, really appreciated this opportunity, reiterate a little bit, drive your point home. Next time you're in the district, please again come visit, or I'll reach out in a few weeks and see if there's been any progress. Reach out to you or your staff. So it's a way to kind of keep the connection and again build that relationship.
Yes, you can send a thank you note, not a gift.
Yes, no gifts.
No gifts.
And that's really important too, because like a lot of times people want to bring a product. Now there are home state product exceptions, but you got to work those through the ethics committee. But sometimes people will want to bring something as a leave behind. It's not allowed, and it can be awkward for the staff because they have to say, feel like they're ingracious and say we can't accept this. So it's better to just follow up with a thank you note.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Maybe even as you said, Mark, a photo of your manufacturing
Yeah,
facility with a handwritten note. Done.
yeah.
Can be that simple. All right, let's keep moving along. So, in your experience, what do you think is the best way to reach folks? Is it a written letter, an email, a phone call? I know we kind of touched on this, but if you had your druthers today, how would you go about it if you were a rookie in this world?
Mm. I think it depends on the issue. Like if my goal is to, or the purpose of the
Mhm.
communication, like if my goal is to build a relationship, then it's probably not going to be a tweet. But I think if you have like a very pointed request of a member, I think social media is increasingly powerful in terms of kind of like a mobilizing force. Like we talked about the strength in numbers. So to the extent you've got some some marketing skills and can come up with something catchy. I think that social media is certainly kind of like the new frontier in terms of both sending information to members, but also they're investing a lot in terms of pushing their own communication out via that media as well.
When you were on the other side, Karen, what did you see mainly? Did you see it leaning any one way or another? Was it more emails, more phone calls?
Oh my gosh. It was everything. It was like
Okay.
drinking from a fire hose all the time. You like, if there was a hearing or a markup or something, there would certainly be a lot of phone calls. We would see an uptick in phone calls. If you send letters via uh postal mail, they're all radiated offsite, so there's like a lag in terms of when you receive it, so it's kind of hard to tell as much. Certainly, we would get an email influx a lot of times when there were like letter writing campaigns where you can clearly tell maybe it was like a union or a trade association organizing a letter writing campaign. On social media, back when it was called Twitter, we would have tweet storms. So you might have like an outside organization, say from 1 to 2 on Thursday afternoon, we're going to tweet about hashtag X.
Mm,
And that would sometimes kind of drum up some interest from members, and they might want to post in that tweet storm so that they could, be demonstrate their support or
right,
opposition for
right.
something.
Sure.
Um, so it really does run the gamut. And there's a question of any specific social media that works better. Um, I don't know that I don't look my age, so I'm not on Snapchat or anything. But I do think kind of uh like Snapchat, or pardon me, not Snapchat. Instagram, Facebook, and X are kind of like the main three social media platforms, but there's so many. And I think it depends on the member and their target demographic. They might be on a much wider range of platforms. But I think those three are kind of the bread and butter.
Karen, you may disagree, but I mean, like my sense, and again, I'm going to date myself because I was up on the hill for a lot of years before social media.
Hmm.
But like, I think the social media is monitored primarily by the press staff.
Hmm.
Whereas, and when they see something come in that is, more policy related, it'll get routed to a particular staff member or brought to the member's attention. I think if send a letter or call or email, most of the offices have a system where they capture the incoming and like it becomes a record that needs to work through the system, and it triggers a process for offices that are really dedicated to responding. So and all of those letters and communications will end up with the policy staffer, who's going to be charged with helping to develop the response. So it may be the faster, more reliable, and recorded way to get your message to the right policy staffer. But I don't think there's any particular magic to it.
Yeah. I
Gotcha.
don't think there's a wrong answer.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as you're kind and respectful, there's no
Yes,
wrong answer.
absolutely.
Well said. I think we touched on this next question, but I'll just throw it out there anyway. If you are a family-owned business that has many employees and workers, is this something that you should play up in discussions? And obviously, I think we brought this up before. Is that absolutely an invite to your representative to come to your place of work is a great way for them to get to know who you are, who your business is, and to meet other constituents.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly if you are a resident of the district and your employees are a resident of the district,
Mm,
that's got to be front and center. But don't forget about the members that are in the surrounding area,
yep,
especially if you have employees that might come from a different district.
right.
Because that's another way to kind of build support, and your employees are the constituent of that district. So sort of by proxy, your business is of interest or should be of interest and important to that neighboring district. So remember, so it's a way also to kind of broaden out your outreach.
Yeah. And I would say it reminds me of Andy's question of, oh, they say they care about small business, but then they don't ask about, how this impacts small business. While I do recognize that family-owned businesses are all different sizes, they're not all small businesses, they're medium and large businesses as well. I think the point is it doesn't matter if you employ 5 people or 50 people or 5,000 people. Those are voters in that member's district, and they will certainly not only care about you as a business owner in terms of the contributions you're making by way of job creation and tax revenue, but also if there is a harmful there is a harmful regulation that would require you to, perhaps shed some of your workforce. Well, that's certainly going to impact their district, and they want to know about that. So it gives you a lot more leverage in terms of understanding why they should be building a relationship with you.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. Really good.
John,
Yep.
we've also with some of the fly-ins for Family Enterprise USA and Policy and Taxation Group that we've done, are we've had some of the family business owners that have brought employees with them.
Yes.
And so having the generational employee message and having the employees talk about different issues that are related, immigration. I think we had
Yeah.
conversations, and different types of federal labor law implications, retirement and succession planning, all of those kind of things that can intersect between the owners and the employees. It adds a new kind of twist to the visit and to the
Yeah.
messaging.
Yeah.
Um,
No, great
I
point.
think resonates.
Yeah, great point. I mean, as you said, our last caucus was the panel was on legacy and longevity, and we had those generations there, and it was really impactful. Well, hopefully, some of the things that we're talking about here are the next step, in guiding you to be able to make that venture out to visit either your district office or come to DC. And again, I'll repeat, if you're interested in coming as a family business to our caucus event, please reach out to me. Um, it's probably the easiest way for you to get comfortable doing this, especially when you're surrounded by tremendous professionals like Karen and Mark. That's how I learned, and it's just a great way to sit in on a meeting and learn just by listening. So I definitely urge folks to do that. So let's move on. Next question. Okay, so it's important. Is it important to ask for something? Maybe this is for the more veteran type of folks that have done this a little bit. Is it important to ask about supporting a specific bill or vote for against a measure? I think most of us that go in for the first couple times are probably not as sophisticated as pointing to a specific bill, but what's your take here, Mark and Karen?
Well, I think it really depends on, what's the purpose of your visit? I mean, if it is
Yeah.
legislation that you're aware of that is going to have an adverse or positive effect on your business, then yeah, I mean, get to it and state your point. And if there are modifications, be specific. If it's more kind of on the introductory side, then I think that's equally valuable. That's where, though, I think having the handout that is, the picture of your business and that talks about your employees in the district, or you invite them to come visit, a member and staff, when they're in the district. So I don't think, again, there's a perfect answer for this. I think it is much more kind of tailored to the particular circumstance.
Yeah. I agree. I would just also say I think the best time to meet with an office is when you don't actually need something. Because then you're starting out by building that understanding of who you are and why you matter, and how this can be a symbiotic relationship where you are contributing to them and valuable to them as much as they are to you. And then certainly once you even if you haven't done that already, there's no shame or nothing taboo about saying specifically, hey, this is who I am, and HR1 is good for me because it will provide certainty in terms of estate taxes, which is important to my succession planning and maintaining this family-owned business for the next generation. So there's no shame in that either.
Those
Yeah,
are
no,
my
I,
favorite kind of meetings, is when they say we don't have a specific ask, we just wanted to make sure you knew who we were. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially to begin building that relationship.
Mhm.
yeah, that is awesome, Karen, because as I look at some of these meetings, I've always looked at them. They almost mimic um, a sales call, if you will, from the
Mhm.
standpoint that you have an ask, you need to follow up, you need to build a relationship. So it's kind of interesting how it kind of brings all those aspects into the meeting. But yeah, that's a great point. Okay, let's. I think we talked about this. Is it important to have a representative understand the positive support and contributions your family business has made to the local community and district? Again, we know that family businesses, from our research, are definitely involved and quite entwined in the fabric of their communities. But yeah, we always stress, please, let the representative understand what you do for the community, whether it be the Boys and Girls Club or the Little League field. So we're always stressing this, and I'm sure that you guys would say the same.
Yeah, and again,
Absolutely.
it goes to, if you don't have a very specific ask, this is a way to sort of tailor, that you are a constituent and show part of, a significant part of your community engagement. We support the Little League, and here's the picture of our big banner behind the,
Yeah,
the Little League players, or,
nice.
whatever it is.
Yeah, great point.
We have another question in the chat about uh, providing a service to share voting records on specific issues. I don't believe that's something that we do. But if you go to congress.gov, it is a publicly available platform that will show you every member of Congress's vote. I want to say from today until all the way back to like I don't know,
Late 80s, I think.
yeah, like 1980s something.
Wow.
So you can see a member's voting record to date, and you can search through that record by different issue areas. And also, do we promote specific bills to provide background? Um, Absolutely. The organizations have pushed out a lot of information from our respective law firms about not only legislation in Congress that's pending, that's important, but also regulations that are coming out of the administration, because it's not just like you pass a bill and it becomes a law overnight. There's a magical process through the fourth branch of government. So something certainly something to keep in mind.
And we've even had a few court cases, Supreme Court cases over the years that we've also, tried to make available information on.
Great. All right, we're up to our last question, and probably one of the most important, which is after the meeting, what's next? What's the best way to follow up? I mean, I can tell you mine. I mean, I do this all the time, but let's hear from the experts in terms of, what's best.
Well, again,
Certainly
I
that
think
thank you note.
yeah, that thank you note is front and center for me. How you deliver that thank you note. As Karen said, all the paper mail has to go through an irradiation process after the anthrax attacks in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So that can we used to call it crispy mail because
Mm.
sometimes when you opened it up, it was very crispy. But generally, you can read them. So sometimes email is a little easier as well. So a lot of different ways. We really with however you're comfortable. And again, saying thank you, kind of reminding them the positive points that you talked about, and emphasizing if there was an ask, what that was, and reminding them that you're local, you're important because you're a constituent and you vote, and your employees vote. Um, you don't have to be that pointed, but just to
Yeah.
say, why being present is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say just to make it plain. If you're meeting with a staff member, certainly thank the staff member. There's nothing to stop you from going on to that member's website and saying, "Hi, Senator such and such. I had the pleasure of meeting with so and so. They were wonderful. We spoke about XYZ, and I would love your support for this. And thank you for your time." Like that's going to go to that legislative correspondent, who then is going to go to the legislative assistant that you met with and ask them about it and get a sense of how they can respond. But it's another way, to Mark's point earlier, of kind of having this recorded touch point. And certainly, Mark's suggestion earlier about engaging at the district level, you could also do the same thing and say, "Hey, I had a great, district director, so and so. I met with Mary back in DC, and she was wonderful. And I'm in the district, and I'd love to meet with you. Would you like to come out to our facility?" It's great to have the member, but I often, encourage folks not to underestimate the power of the staff, especially if you're willing to invite the office multiple times, because they might feel more comfortable green lighting the member coming to your facility if they know what they will experience because they have visited there as a staffer, to kind of almost like a little advance work.
You
It's
would almost think Karen was a staffer at some point.
Yeah, definitely. It's also a variation on the kind of the old adage of, multiple bites at the apple.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you write to and you could space them out, a few days or a week, and I think it helps to punctuate your presence and any message that you had.
And
Well,
just for context, when I was a legislative correspondent and had like 16,000 letters a month that I had to respond to, or at any one time, our goal was to get all responses out within 4 weeks.
Right.
Um, Now that was for a member in leadership in a purple state. It might be a little bit different if you're, you know, a Republican in a very red state, you might take a little bit more time. If you're a Democrat in a very blue state, you might be able to take a little bit more time. If you're a Democrat in a red state, you might get it out in a week. because at the end of the day, those are all constituent touch points. But um, give them some grace in terms of responding to your outreach.
Here's a thought, Karen. You should try to see if you can get a new comp plan put in for the staffers to get paid by piece of mail.
Oh,
Sounds like
oh,
they do okay.
that but then there would be a fight between like California and New York and like North Dakota because there's
Yeah.
such a population disparity.
Well,
Yeah.
I gotta thank you guys. As you know, I am very fortunate to work with you both. I've learned quite a bit from both of you, and I appreciate it. I hope the folks on the call appreciate it as well. Um, and if you like today's show, please go to our website, feusa.com, for more webcasts, or subscribe to our podcast, where each episode discusses the critical issues affecting family-owned businesses, family offices, and successful families around the country. So until next time, thanks for listening. Thank you, Karen and Mark.